So if you've stuck with us so far, today I'd like to discuss with you the Amidot, the standing prayers on Rosh Hashanah. Starting with the Shacharit Amidah and also the Mariv Amidah, there are 9 blessings. Now, why the number 9? We have, I mentioned before the 18 on during the weekday and during Shabbat. But when we have specifically 9, and this corresponds to Hannah's prayer that we actually chant as part of our Haftorah. Hannah's prayer has 9 mentions of God in it. And so the sages composed the Rosh Hashanah, the Amidah, the Rosh Hashanah standing prayer to correspond to the 9 blessings. There are also other piyutim, other hymns that are recited as part of the Shacharit Amidah, and they are pretty self-explanatory, invoking the sanctity of the High Holy Day season. What is sometimes a little difficult to understand is the Musaf, the additional service on Rosh Hashanah. And it's beautiful in its intent as it invokes God's qualities as king, melech, machyot, these kingship or sovereignty verses. And then we have the zichronot, the remembrance verses, and then the shofar. So what do these mean even? Well, first, we acknowledge that God is ruler of the universe. That's the machyot verses. The zichronot, the remembrance verses, are acknowledging God as the God of history. God is involved. God didn't just set the world into motion and let it go, so to speak. And as it exists, it exists. So as Jews, we acknowledge that God is involved in history. And then the Shofar verses, this acknowledges God as the God of revelation, that the events at Mount Sinai occurred as they are depicted in the Torah, and that indeed we acknowledge that God was the one that gave us the Torah. God gave us the 10 Commandments and all of Jewish law as we know it. So it's a little difficult unless you can really look at it and understand the structure of each of these sections. One of the highlights is the sounding shofar during these verses. Originally, this was the only time we sounded the shofar, but with the acknowledgement that the young and the elderly might not be available to stay, and they were either not very well physically, and maybe impatient. So then we added the shofar service immediately following the Torah reading and the Haftorah reading. And then we sound the shofar then. That was additionally added in more recent history. But originally, the intent was to sound the shofar during the Musaf service, and indeed we will. Although the first day of Rosh Hashanah, which is Shabbat, we do not sound the shofar, so we will be adding additional sounds so that everyone can fulfill the mitzvah of hearing the total of 100 sounds per day. So we begin, you would think that we would begin with Torah, which we do. There are verses from Torah. Then there are verses from prophets and verses from the writings. And you would think that would be the order, because that's the order they appear in Tanakh. However, because King David wrote the Psalms, the verses from the Psalms are recited after the verses from Torah, so they're done in chronological order rather than in the order they appear in Tanakh. So the first we have verses from Torah, and there will be 3-4 verses from Torah. And then we have verses from the Psalms, and then we have verses from the prophets in each of the 3 sections. So, and that's the order that they occur. There are, of course, additional blessings, which are the blessings of Machiot, kingship, the blessings of Zichronot, remembrance, and then blessings over the Shofar. And it's right after those blessings that we sound the Shofar each time. So that is the structure of the Musaf service. After those 3 sections, then we conclude the Amidah in the usual fashion, the way you would normally hear it, even on a weekday or on Shabbat. The only thing that's added, really, after this is the piyut, the hymn Hayom, which is a very popular tune. Hayom, 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 and then we fill in the verses there. So that's the only thing that's added in addition to the regular Musaf service after these 3 major sections that I referenced earlier. So this is the essence of the additional service, and it is beautiful, it is meaningful, and it is a way in which we really are able to connect with the aspects of God as they affect our life. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this journey of videos we've taken up to this point. I will be on vacation for a couple of weeks, and the next video that you will have will address the Yom Kippur service. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish everyone a Shana Tova Umituka, a good, sweet, happy, prosperous, and healthy 5787. Shalom.